peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Viewers, good morning. This morning, I want to address the issue of Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. The legacy of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya keeps on moving, keeps on going forward and forward. Since the handshake in 2018, that brought about the peace, the tranquility, the unity of purpose, President Uhuru's star has been rising. All over Africa, people are thinking of using the model that Kenya used to stop any form of violence, chaos on the streets after elections. As you know, all of you are aware that elections in Africa produce two things: after or before or after the voting. Disputed elections, winner takes it all, loser doesn't accept the results. But the Kenyan model takes us miles and miles away from the normal type of democracy. The democracy, a negotiated format, a consensus format. A democracy that gives consensus a chance. A democracy that talks about the future of a country, the unity of a country, as opposed to a fragmented country, polarized country, where most African countries find themselves in. We have seen in the last 10 years or so, most of the elections in Africa have been contested by the opposition. Very few people in Africa, countries in Africa, where opposition has conceded defeat and come up to congratulate the winner. We have seen the South African model has worked very well. The Ghanaian model has worked so well. I don't see any other country in Africa where the models have worked well. I thought it would be Sierra Leone, but today we see Sierra Leone going back to the same ethnic tensions, as you can see from the reports that are circulating in the international media and the local media. So elections in Africa are contentious issues. They create a contentious position, create a departing point for the people of Africa, of that particular nation. The legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta, therefore, will be remembered for having brought the tranquility that we have today, the peace, the new format, the new tool of having a better organized civil Africa, an Africa without violence, an Africa without chaos after elections, when the opposition accepts to work for the interests of a nation, not personal interests. This has worked in Kenya, and thank you very much, Your Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, for the tenacity and the steadfastness that you have guided this handshake up to today. For those who want to mutilate the handshake belittle the handshake. One lesson they should learn is to look at Libya. Libya was once a territory we all respected. It is no more. Let's keep the handshake and the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Thank you.
With regard to corruption, we will continue to fight. Regardless of what will be said and done, we will fight, and we will fight, and we intend to fight and win. And it is unfortunate that sometimes this is politicized also, but as I said, this is a fight that Kenya must win, because if we can't create not just a fair environment, but a stable environment, it must also then be transparent. So that once you do your business, you know what you need to do, how you're going to do about it. So your business succeeds not on the basis of who you know, but how you do your business. That should be really what all of us should be focused on. Your business should not succeed or fail based on which government is in power. Right? It should be on the basis of the plans and the programs that you have as business people and what your business plan is. And that should be the basis of rating success. And this will happen. This will happen. It will be difficult. It will be noisy. But it will happen. It will happen. It will happen because there's no going back. And this is an agenda I just want to be very, very, very clear about.
From 1992 in Kenya, elections have always been divisive in the form of violence, in the form of malpractices, in the form of all types of gerrymandering that has led to chaos that we have seen that has engulfed this country since independence. The biggest obstacle of the Kenyan elections is a very simple way out. The obstacle is we have never changed the forest. We have changed monkeys in the forest. If you want to cure the Kenya elections, you get a cure, a permanent cure for the Kenya elections. Change the forest. The monkeys will not come to that new forest. Reforms and reforms have been done around Kenyan elections. Rules, regulations, laws. Are these laws enforced anyway? The answer is no. Most of the people break it, go with it, create chaos after they have not been punished. So the basis of the BBI is to interrogate the chapter, the seriousness of why elections produce violence every 5 years. Why do people fight? Yes, someone would say they are linked with tribal cocoons that conduct themselves or take part in the elections. The answer could be clearer, nearer there. But the solution, therefore, to safeguard, even if it is tribal, South Africa has got the biggest tribe, the Zulu. But still there are safeguards in South Africa that have safeguarded an election. That the Zulus don't dominate the entire South Africa because the electoral systems are safeguarded by principles and institutions. The institution of elections in Kenya and in many African countries has always been the product and has always been an institution that produces violence. Everywhere on the continent, you see electoral commissioners confused in reading their election results. Some of them don't even know the results. Some of them don't know how many votes were garnered by both parties. To avoid this mess, Kenya needs to look completely and put emphasis on the electoral reforms that are needed so that in 2022 there is no violence in the elections that will be conducted. For this reason, therefore, I would urge the chairman of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Chebukati, to say bye-bye, because he has held several controversial elections that we have seen, including under his auspices, one election nullified in the history of Africa. Thank you very much, viewers.
Miaka michache iliyopita biashara katika eneo la Afrika Mashariki ilikuwa changamoto kali kwa wafanyabiashara wengi. Ufisadi, hali ya kucheleweshwa kwa ukaguzi na kupitishwa kwa mizigo katika bandari mbali na urasimu mwingi ulisababisha hasara kubwa kwa wafanyabiashara. Urasimu katika mipaka ulichangia ongezeko la magendo ambayo yalisababisha nchi hii kupoteza mapato mengi. Hata hivyo, kwa sasa changamoto hizo ni hadithi tu, kufuatia hatua madhubuti zilizochukuliwa na marekebisho ya maongozi ambayo yalianza kutekelezwa na serikali ya Jubilee tangu ichukue uongozi mwaka wa 2013.
Biashara kati ya nchi inaharibiwa na wale ambao wamepatiwa kazi ya kusimamia mipaka yetu. Mtu anapatiwa kazi, badala iwe jukumu lake ni kumsaidia mwananchi, kazi yake ni kuitisha hongo, kazi yake ni kumzuia ndio upate pesa, kumchelewesha. Na tukasema mambo haya katika Afrika Mashariki ile ambayo tunaelekea lazima yakome.
Kenya na Uganda zina uhusiano mzuri wa kibiashara kati yao, uhusiano ambao sasa ni zaidi ya karne moja. Uhusiano wa kibiashara kati ya nchi hizi mbili umeendelea kuimarika na kuboreshwa kwa miaka sasa, hivyo basi kudhibiti uhusiano wa raia wao kiuchumi na kijamii. Uganda ndiyo soko kubwa ya bidhaa za kutoka Kenya, mbali na kuwa mteja mkubwa zaidi wa bandari ya Mombasa, hasa kwa bidhaa zinazosafirishwa nje, ikiongoza mataifa mengine kama vile Jamhuri ya Demokrasia ya Congo, Sudan Kusini na Rwanda. Kuimarishwa kwa shughuli za ukaguzi na kupitishwa kwa mizigo katika bandari ya Mombasa na uchukuzi wa mizigo katika ushoroba wa kaskazini kumehakikisha utaratibu bora wa biashara kati ya nchi hizi mbili. Kuboreshwa kwa huduma katika bandari ya Mombasa kumehakikisha kwamba uchukuzi wa mizigo kutoka na kuingia katika nchi ya Afrika Mashariki za Rwanda, Burundi, Sudan Kusini na eneo la mashariki mwa Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Congo unafika katika vituo vyake kwa wakati unaofaa.
In the last awamu, straight away he handled our perennial problem of delays in Mombasa. Before his time, some of the people in the port thought they were doing Uganda a favor by handling our goods. So you had to come and beg them, please, tafadhali, in Kiswahili. Tafadhali, tafadhali, tafadhali. Not knowing that they were sabotaging Uganda, all right, but they were also sabotaging Kenya. The efficient handling of cargo in the port and on all the routes to the hinterland is good for the economies of Uganda, economy of Kenya, and the economies of the other hinterland countries.
Kuanzishwa kwa utaratibu mmoja wa pamoja wa ushuru wa forodha mnamo mwaka wa 2015 ulikuwa ufanisi mkubwa wa kushughulikia hali ya kutumia stakabadhi nyingi katika vituo vya mipaka. Utekelezaji wa utaratibu huo umeshirikisha hatua ya kupitisha na kuimarisha uchukuzi wa mizigo kwa haraka katika ushoroba wa kaskazini na wakati. Huku kukiwepo na reli ya kisasa ya SGR, basi bila shaka kuna ongezeko la biashara ya haraka.
Now with the one-stop border post, you are cleared at the country of destination. So if you are coming from Kenya, you don't stop on the Kenyan side, you will stop on the Ugandan side, and you will have joint interventions between the Ugandan officials and the Kenyan officials. So this has reduced significantly the time that was being taken to cross the border from 2 to 5 days now to under 5 minutes.
Ufunguzi wa vituo mbalimbali vya pamoja katika maeneo ya mipaka kati ya nchi jirani kumesaidia kupunguza vikwazo ambavyo vilizuia biashara bora na kuvutia katika eneo la Afrika Mashariki na kwingineko. Kuwepo kwa vituo vya pamoja mipakani ni hatua muhimu ambayo ni kinyume na hali ya hapo mbeleni ya kila nchi kuwa na kituo chake, hali ambayo ilihusisha matumizi ya makaratasi mengi, mrudio wa taratibu, muda mrefu wa kuidhinisha wasafiri katika kuingia na kutoka mipakani, hali ambayo ilisababisha kucheleweshwa na kuongezwa kwa gharama ya kufanya biashara. Taratibu hizi zilidhihirisha jinsi mataifa ya Afrika Mashariki yalikuwa yanakinzana katika ukaguzi na kupitisha mizigo.
The significant changes which have been brought in is the change of the processes of how we do work and compared to what we used to do. What has happened is that now in the one-stop border post we are talking of goods which are incoming to be handled at one place where we do it jointly with our brothers from KRA Customs, and then also the travelers are handled in one place, which we call a one-stop border. Before, what used to happen is that we would do first handle, complete the processes of exit on the Ugandan side, then goods cross and go to Kenya, they repeat the same thing to admit them into the Kenyan territory. But right now, we work together and do everything at once.
Utaratibu wa kuwa na vituo vya pamoja vya mipakani kumebadilisha hali hii na kuimarisha uchukuzi wa mipakani, huku shughuli za mipakani zikiendeshwa kwa kasi na kwa ustadi, na hivyo basi kupunguza vizuizi vya biashara na kuboresha ushindani wa kibiashara. Sababu kubwa ya kuanzisha vituo hivi vya pamoja mipakani, ikiwemo ni shoroba za uchukuzi, ilikuwa ni kuharakisha uchukuzi wa mizigo na usafiri wa watu na kupunguza gharama ya biashara katika mipaka ya mataifa husika.
Kuna mabadiliko sana, maana kulikuwa na wakati kwenda hivi lazima utoe stakabadhi ama ukirudi hivi usumbuliwe, lakini kwa sasa hivi sisi wenye tunaishi mahali hapa tunaenda Uganda tunarudi, tunaenda Kenya tunarudi, hakuna mtu anatusumbua.
Kuanzishwa kwa vituo hivi vya pamoja ikiwemo ni hatua nyingine za ushirikishi kama vile utaratibu wa kielektroniki wa kufuatilia mizigo na utaratibu mmoja wa ushuru wa forodhani umepunguza msongamano katika vituo vya mipakani na kuwahimiza wafanyabiashara kuzingatia kanuni zilizowekwa.
We have the simplified trade regime, what we are calling the simplified cargo manifest. If we are importing goods less than $2,000, you are not required to go through the rigorous customs declarations as before. Now you just fill a form and you are cleared through. It will take you a very short time. Once you are compliant and you meet all the national laws and regulations, you are cleared through. So this encourages cross-border women traders and the small traders who are operating around the border to be able to facilitate. Before that, people were fearing coming through a gazetted customs border post because of the complicated trade regimes. that is well versed with maybe established companies that have in-house clearing, or they can hire a clearing agent. But with a simplified cargo manifest, you can do it on your own. You don't need an agent.
Manufaa mengine ya vituo hivyo ni pamoja na kuimarishwa kwa usalama, kuimarika kwa mapato, matumizi bora ya rasilimali kupitia ushirikiano mipakani na ushirikishi wa mali na taarifa za ujasusi kati ya mataifa husika. Kenya inaendelea kutimiza jukumu muhimu katika ushoroba wa uchukuzi wa kaskazini. Wakati wa ziara ya hivi majuzi ya kiongozi wa Uganda, nchi hizi mbili zilikubaliana kuondoa vikwazo visivyo vya kiushuru. Bila shaka hatua hii itaharakisha sana uchukuzi wa mizigo, huduma na usafiri wa watu wa nchi hizi mbili. Halmashauri ya ukusanyaji ushuru nchini KRA ikishirikiana na halmashauri ya ukusanyaji ushuru wa Uganda URA zimejitokeza na utaratibu wa pamoja wa usalama wa mizigo ambao utafuatilia uchukuzi wa mizigo kati ya nchi hizi mbili kwa kutumia mitambo ya kielektroniki. Utaratibu huu ni mojawapo wa manufaa ya wafanyabiashara, kwani unawaruhusu kufuatilia mizigo yao kutoka bandari ya Mombasa hadi katika vituo sahihi.
So this is the regional electronic cargo tracking system command center, which enables us to monitor the goods under the single customs territory through a remote location in Times Tower. We're then able to monitor the goods all the way from the port of Mombasa into the hinterland, and as you can see, it covers all the way into Uganda, all the way into Rwanda and even Burundi. The advantage of this system is from point to point, we have total visibility of all the goods as they're moving across the geofenced transit route. The advantage here is that we no longer have to escort goods using officers. This enables us to actually use just 3 officers for the work that was being done by almost 50 officers. And it also gives visibility to the Uganda Revenue Authority and the Rwanda Revenue Authority, who are especially able to even monitor the goods under SCT.
Kwa wakati huu Kenya imeimarisha huduma zake za mizani na kupima uzito wa mizigo katika magari kwa kutumia vifaa vinavyoweza kukagua uzito kwa haraka. Vifaa hivi kwa sasa vinatumika katika vituo vya kupima mizani ya uzito kwa magari vya huko Mariakani, Mlolongo, Gilgil na Webuye. Katika muda wa miaka 3 ijayo, vifaa hivi vitawekwa katika vituo vyote muhimu. Hatua ya matumizi ya vifaa hivi vipi imepunguza msongamano katika vituo hivi vya kupimia mizani ya uzito wa magari. Naibu wa mkurugenzi wa halmashauri ya barabara kuu nchini, ambaye anahusika na mizigo na usimamizi wa ushoroba, Bwana Mwitangatia, anasema vifaa hivyo vimepunguza gharama ipasavyo, kwani sasa vinasaidia kudumisha barabara kutokana na uharibifu ambao unasababishwa na magari kubeba mizigo kupita kiasi. Vile vile hatua hii imepunguza ufisadi kwa hatua kubwa katika vituo hivi.
We have gone through a period when we used to have single axle weighers where we were weighing every line, every axle at a time. So for such an operation for a 6-axle truck would take as long as up to 10 minutes, 6-10 minutes. We later introduced from 2012, we started automating our weigh bridges. We started by introducing multi-decks at Mariakani and also Mlolongo. And in the year 2013, we introduced high-speed weigh in motion, where we use load sensors to determine whether a vehicle needs to get to the weigh bridge for determination of the weight. Of course, we used to have corruption. I'm not saying that we don't have it entirely, but it is the transporters who will induce the police officers and the weigh bridge operators with the bribes. But where we have automated the weigh bridges, along the northern corridor, that has been ruled out through the automation.
Ziara ya kiserikali ya Rais Museveni ilifaidi sana Kenya. Serikali ya Kenya ikishirikiana na washirika wake wa kimaendeleo imejitolea kurekebisha reli ya zamani, kuiunganisha na ya SGR kutoka Naivasha hadi Malaba ili kurahisisha uchukuzi wa mizigo hadi Uganda.
But I have also confirmed to President Museveni that by the end of this year, with that development in Naivasha, and then moving on to the meter gauge from there to Malaba, that goods will now move from Mombasa to Malaba within 2 days.
Ili kuimarisha uadilifu na mtiririko wa uchukuzi na kuleta huduma za bandari karibu na wateja wake, serikali ya Kenya imekarabati vituo vya kuhifadhi makasha katika maeneo ya miji. Vituo hivyo vimeleta mabadiliko makubwa katika hali ya kushughulikia mizigo nchini Kenya na katika eneo la Afrika Mashariki, na hivyo kuifanya bandari ya Mombasa kuendelea kuwa nguzo muhimu ya kupitisha bidhaa za kuuzwa nje na za kuingizwa katika eneo hili. Ili kuboresha zaidi ziara ya Rais Museveni, Rais Kenyatta aliamua kuipa serikali ya Uganda kipande cha ardhi huko Naivasha ili kujenga kituo cha kuhifadhi makasha yake ya mizigo. Hatua hii inakusudia kuimarisha biashara ya uchukuzi wa mizigo kati ya mataifa haya mawili.
I have made a commitment to my older brother that we will make available land in Naivasha for Uganda to open a dry port, so that goods can move seamlessly from the port of Mombasa to the dry port of Naivasha.
Hatua hii pia ni hakikisho la kujitolea kwa Kenya kuendelea kudumisha Uganda kama mteja wake mkubwa wa mizigo inayopelekwa nje na pia kuingizwa katika nchi hiyo kupitia bandari ya Mombasa. Kituo hicho kitasaidia Uganda kutimiza jukumu muhimu kwa nchi zisizo na ufuo wa bahari ikiwemo Rwanda na nchi ya demokrasia ya Congo, na hivyo kudhihirisha kujitolea kwa Kenya kuhakikisha uchukuzi bora wa mizigo na watu katika eneo la Afrika Mashariki. Kiasi cha mizigo kilichosafirishwa kwa reli katika mwaka wa 2014 kilikuwa 2% pekee. Kwa wakati huu, kati ya 70% ya mizigo inayopitia bandarini, 50% inasafirishwa kupitia reli ya SGR hadi jijini Nairobi. Kila gari la moshi linabeba mabewa 52. Hii inamaanisha kwamba zaidi ya malori 50 yamepunguzwa kutoka barabara. Kwa uadilifu huu, wafanyabiashara wengi zaidi wanapaswa kuanza kusafirisha mizigo yao kupitia reli ya kisasa ya SGR.
We need to look at the SGR broadly, remembering that there's also many other activities that will be surrounding the SGR. For example, the special economic zone that is earmarked for Naivasha, where phase 1 will be terminating. And of course, Naivasha is critical because it is also the main source of our renewable energy through geothermal. So by virtue of that, the evacuation cost of geothermal energy through the special economic zones give Kenya a very big advantage in terms of being able to generate an industrial renaissance, for us to be able to really do industry seriously that will serve the East African region. And I have no doubt that in the years to come, if we are serious about our industrialization agenda, we will be able to actually create a lot more activities around import substitution that could serve the whole region.
Mojawapo wa bidhaa muhimu zinazosafirishwa Uganda ni bidhaa za mafuta ya petroli. Kwa wakati huu, mafuta yaliyosafirishwa husafirishwa kutoka Mombasa hadi Eldoret na hatimaye Kisumu kupitia bomba la mafuta ya Kenya Pipeline Company KPC ili kusafirisha mafuta ya petroli kwa urahisi na uadilifu hadi Uganda. Kampuni hiyo ya mafuta ya Kenya Pipeline imekamilisha mipango ya ujenzi wa gati huko Kisumu, ambako bidhaa hiyo itakuwa inapelekwa na kusafirishwa kupitia meli katika ziwa Victoria hadi kwa gati zilizoko Entebbe, Uganda, na hatimaye kusafirishwa hadi jijini Kampala. Ujenzi wa gati wa kushughulikia mafuta ya petroli jijini Kisumu katika ziwa Victoria utaimarisha uchukuzi wa mafuta ya petroli na bidhaa zake. Hatua hii inamaanisha kuwepo kwa usafiri bora wa gharama ya chini na salama wa bidhaa za mafuta ya petroli hadi Uganda na mataifa mengine jirani.
While we are still waiting for the railway, the Kenya government has already moved on the issue of the petroleum products. There are now jetties already and the pipelines up to Kisumu for the ordinary petroleum products and diesel, but also they are working on the aviation fuel. So that means that in the coming years, a lot of cargo will move from the roads to the railway, and fuel will move from the roads to the pipeline and across the lake to the tugboats, which can carry the fuel across the lake. It will be cheaper, faster, safer, and away from the roads, so that the roads remain for the drunkards and other people if they want to kill themselves, but without the addition of the oil tankers and the traders for cargo.
Mashauri kati ya viongozi hao wakati wa ziara hiyo ya hivi majuzi yalimulika masuala ya kuboresha biashara.
For Kenya we had issues around, the first one was on beef. In 1996 Uganda banned imports of meat from Kenya. In that meeting, it was agreed, Uganda agreed to lift the ban on beef with immediate effect. So it means from now, any Kenyan can export meat to Uganda without a problem. This could not happen for the last 23 years. So that is a major achievement for us.
Baadhi ya bidhaa zinazouzwa kwenda nchini Uganda ni mafuta ya petroli, matunda ya sharubati, vyuma miongoni mwa bidhaa zingine, huku Kenya ikiagiza kutoka Uganda sukari, maziwa, vyakula vya mifugo, matunda na mboga. Bila shaka makampuni mengi ya Kenya yanafurahia soko hilo na kusaidia kutoa ajira kwa Wakenya wengi. Wengi wa wale wanaofanya kazi ya uchukuzi kwa malori ni wa Kenya. Hii inamaanisha kwamba kuna nafasi nyingi za ajira zinazochipuka kupitia ushoroba wa uchukuzi wa kaskazini. Bila shaka urahisi wa biashara unaendelea kudhihirika miongoni mwa wafanyabiashara wa Kenya. Hii inadhihirika kutokana na kiasi cha biashara wanayofanya.
Iko sawa baba. Kwa Museveni si tuko home. Nao akija kwetu wako nyumbani. Hiyo ndio maisha mimi nafurahia.
Ugandan market for us is a very good market, and exporting to Uganda is easy because on the following day, almost the same day, when the truck gets to the border, is able to access our Ugandan market. We've had very good reports from our distributors in Uganda that export has been made very easy.
Sasa hamna kikomo chochote katika shughuli za kibiashara. Kenya na Uganda zimeafikiana kuishi kama ndugu, huku raia wao wakiazimia kuishi pamoja kama ndugu. Serikali, hatutarudi nyuma tulikotoka.
A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for watching us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching us across the world. Today, it is the 22nd of January, exactly 1 month remaining to Sudan's unity government to be formed. Remember, the deadline is on the 22nd of February, and so just 1 month to go. Will this hold? So we'll start our countdown today towards Sudan unity government that is expected later on next year. Thank you so much. I have a lot in store for you, and but of course first we'll have to look at what is making headlines across Kenya this morning. But just in a nutshell, what we shall be looking at in the African news headlines, of course, the U.S. has issued a travel ban, and a couple of African countries might be affected in this. That is including Nigeria and other countries that I really don't understand. But we shall look at that. At least 4 African countries that are expected to be in that travel ban. As well as there's some deaths that were reported in the DRC, and of course in Nigeria, a Christian leader there was beheaded by Boko Haram, and in Burkina Faso, 36 people have been killed by Boko Haram, and there's this move that the government now wants to do. Apparently, the government now wants to arm some civilians to help fight this militant group. I don't even know if the fact that they're even considering this, it's not a good move at all. So we shall talk about this, and I'll give you the latest. Also, there were some protests that were held in Ghana yesterday. And of course, Tunisia, our president has elected our prime minister. And the latest in the Angola the former first daughter Isabel dos Santos, the case, the corruption, the money laundering charges there, and I'll bring you the latest involving that case. And also we shall come to South Sudan, accusations and counter accusations, even as we start our countdown, 1 month to go towards Sudan peace, the unity government being formed next month, and the parties agreeing next month, as well as let me just try to get these other countries. Yes, Ivory Coast, remember it goes to its election this year. President Alassane Ouattara is supposed to be in his last term according to Ivory Coast constitution, but remember at the beginning of the year, he had mentioned that he wanted some changes made in the constitution, and of course he came out and said that this year elections are going to be free and fair, but he has failed to mention if at all he will be vying for this year's election. I remember that will be illegal, so we shall talk about that, and I have the details of that. And also in Lesotho, remember the embattled prime minister who former wife died in 2017, just before he was sworn in as the prime minister. What's really happening there? So he is in for questioning, and Rwanda is considering waiving the visa fee now for all African countries and other Commonwealth countries. So I'll bring you the latest in that. And Zimbabwe, it appears that MDC has an agenda, and yesterday they launched their Vision 2020 for Zimbabwe, and he's saying part of that will be protest after protest after protest, putting pressure to President Emmerson Mnangagwa in line with the hard economic times that Zimbabweans are going through this year, but also anyway, the rest we shall talk about. And in Ambazonia, of course, there's a French diplomat that visited President Paul Biya. What really did they talk about, and what was the agenda? I'll let you know. And of course, in Biafra, there has been some information that Mr. Nnamdi Kanu was planning to come and bury his parents. But of course, the IPOB have come out and said, no, we have not made, there's no official statement on that. But I remember his parents died last year in November, both of them, both his mother and his father. And the IPOB has made an announcement that both of, they'll be buried on the 14th of February. So what's really happening? What are the stakes? Will Nnamdi Kanu be able to come back and bury his mother? We shall talk about that. But for right now, I'll just want us to go through what's making headlines across Kenya this morning, and then we shall come back and look at those African news making headlines in detail. But first of all, charity begins at home, and the Kenya, headlines this morning, all the 3 headlines is the unexpected U-turn that Vice President DP William Ruto and his camp made yesterday. And so A showdown as Tanga Tanga joins BBI allies, and the Deputy President's allies now declare they will attend handshake rallies to scatter an alleged scheme to compile a clandestine report, vowing to hold parallel meetings and take charge of forums in their perceived strongholds. So in other words, they're coming to disrupt all those plans that President Uhuru Kenyatta and now his partner, where they're working together, opposition leader Raila Odinga. This handshake really brought a lot of ripples and has divided the Jubilee Party in the middle. So when this a BBI report was launched, and initially when the team was going around the country to even give its opinion, collecting opinion from Kenyans, even the Jubilee Party, a lot of these members of parliament, these politicians that are allied to it, and who some of them have been opposed to this process from the get-go, they even refused to give their opinion. So now they realized their refusal and they're fighting this process is not really changing anything. So now they've decided to join. Are they not joining because they're agreeing with what BBL entails or this process altogether? I remember time and time again, they've come out and said this is a very illegal process. This is a process that should not be happening. We have a constitution. We should be implementing what is in the constitution. So they've been opposed based on so many reasons they've been giving. But now they've been opposing and fighting it. But they've realized that the president and Raila Odinga are not stopping at anything, and they are continuing, to champion for this BBI report. So now yesterday they called for a press conference and they said, we are coming in. We are joining the BBI team, but we're not coming there because we agree with what is the BBI. We're not coming there because we love the BBI report. We're not coming there because we want to give our contribution towards realizing this BBI thing and our opinion to be heard. But they're saying they're coming in because there is to scuttle an alleged scheme to compile a clandestine report and vowing to hold parallel meetings and take charge of forums in their perceived strongholds. Of course, this is going to be a showdown, even as the Standard newspaper puts it. Remember, the Mombasa meeting is expected to be happening soon, and so they're saying they will join that. Let me just get the details of this story because I think it's important. Since we speak about BBI here all the time, I'll just go through it very, very quickly. And then we look at other matters that are important today, not just in Kenya, but indeed across Africa. And thank you so much. Just, that was in page 11. And so allies of Deputy President William Ruto have said that they will join the building of bridges initiative meetings to fight an alleged scheme to introduce a clandestine report. At least 20 lawmakers yesterday announced they would join the team led by Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga in Mombasa at the weekend for the third building bridges initiative public meeting. The team led by Senate Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen, also announced they will take charge of some of the BBI meetings in a statement interpreted to mean spearheading the public gatherings in areas perceived to be their strongholds like Eldoret and other parts of Rift Valley and central Kenya. Now, the legislators' meeting, which lasted for close to 3 hours yesterday, raised concerns that Ruto's camp could end up isolated and locked out of the reform process if they fail to participate in the discussions. And so, of course, they've not been interested. They've been opposed to this process from the get-go, like I mentioned there. And so now you see the president, that did not stop the president. They did not waver. The president and Mr. Raila Odinga, they have been continuing to champion for this BBI process. And so appears now DP is realizing, you know what? Maybe if I can't really beat them, then perhaps I could join them. And then when I get in there, do the distraction from the inside. Perhaps he's borrowing a leaf from what we saw Mr. Raila Odinga do so many years ago when he joined then the National Party, KANU, that had been in power for a very long time. And, democracy then was really on trial in Kenya, and multi-democracy and multi-partyism. Raila, and among other Kenyans, gallant Kenyans, fought for Kenya to have the space that you enjoy today. it's not perfect. I believe there's still a lot of work to be done, in our electoral process, in our democracy, and in our governance systems, in our structure, all the structures, all institutions that are involved in making sure that a country is considered to be a democratic and a country that, are in line with good governance practice. Strides have been made, but we still have a long way to go, and we are a work in progress. But, so Raila Odinga then, our second president, Mr. Daniel Arap Moi, he was the leader of KANU then, and he had been president for many years. As I said, he was president by the time we were voting to get him out for 24 years in this country, right? So Raila he's always been the perennial opposition figure, of course. Before then, Mwai Kibaki was also a renowned opposition figure, and before that, Kenneth Matiba. And so Raila Odinga was a thorn in the flesh of, the government of then President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. So what he did, he decided, since I can't really fight you, I cannot fight the government from outside, Raila decided to join. I don't know what had happened, but a lot of opposition, leaders joined, led by Raila Odinga. And before even things could settle down, he destroyed the party from the inside, the whole coalition from the inside. And so he realized that that coalition was not working with KANU then. And so he led a mass, exodus, a lot of key members of KANU, and they formed this opposition party, NARC, that finally removed President Daniel Arap Moi from power. So now perhaps Mr. Ruto has borrowed a leaf from that. Remember, then they used to be very, very great allies with Mr. Ruto and Raila Odinga. Then later on, they went and formed the ODM party and things like that. So now he's realized fighting this BBI process is not an easy task. And President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga seems to be focused in making sure they deliver this document. And all right, so they deliver on this, and so they've not been distracted. So I think Ruto has decided, let me just join in, and from there maybe we can perhaps we can have our voices heard, perhaps we can tame some of these things, and and yes, so yesterday they come out, about 20 members of parliament, politicians allied to the Deputy President William Ruto, and they announced that they're actually joining the BBI team now, and the next meeting that will be happening over the next weekend in Mombasa, they will be part of that. So let's just see how that will play out. Also, divisions in Jubilee over debate to oust Governor Waititu, and I was watching this, just part of this in yesterday's news. Lena Mwareri, you're saying, Doctor, you have no other work to do. These topics are all rated. Well, this is the current news. I'm actually going through the newspapers this morning, Lena. So there's nothing I'm reading here from last year. It's just the latest. And it is what is making headlines across the Kenyan newspapers. So we have to look at them. And the BBI right now and the storm it has caused in the Kenyan landscape and what it means, so we have to talk about it because it's here. And it is in majority. It has a lot of coverage in our local newspapers. So I'm just going through the newspapers this morning, Lena. So perhaps, just be patient. We'll get to other news. After this, we'll be looking at other news making headlines across Africa. Maybe that will interest you. But thank you so much for watching us this morning at 1:45 midday here in Nairobi. So cracks within the ruling party yesterday threatened to derail the impeachment process of embattled Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu. For the first time, the party members clashed openly on the composition of the select committee to consider charges brought against the country chief, accusing the House leadership of lack of consultations in nominating colleagues. Now, the debate was characterized by voting patterns pitting legislators allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Chief Raila Odinga versus Deputy President Mr. William Ruto allies. And now a majority of senators backed a plenary session, insisting the matter cannot be left in the hands of the 11 members, with 6 as the required threshold to make a determination. Now, A majority of the pro-building bridges initiative pitched for a delegation of 24 from the 47 counties to make the verdict to either uphold the impeachment or dismiss it. Remember, Ferdinand Waitito was impeached by his MCAs last, last November? Was it November or December? Yes. But he is now, that was not final, so he has to go through a Senate. So should Senate uphold that, then he will cease to be Kiambu governor. But as it is right now, he's been barred from even accessing, his offices in Kiambu, and also he's facing about some number of charges related to corruption and misuse of public funds there that belongs to the Kiambu County government. So there you go. I'll not read the whole thing, but if you want, the story is on page 10 of the Standard newspaper. And now something else on the front pages of the Standard newspaper that really captured my attention this morning. A millionaire trader with zero tax return. Now state wants a suspected gold dealer Jared Otieno to forfeit 2 vehicles worth 62 million Kenya shillings, arguing he had declared to the taxman since 2014 that he had no source of income. So he has been filing nil. All right, let's just take a look at that quickly. John Clark, you're saying, in the name of Raila Odinga, Kenya has never been the same ever again. In a good or a bad way, John Clark, please talk to me. Let me know. But thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. So let's just look at this Jared story, this very flamboyant business person. And I remember he came into the limelight when he was going, I think, to pay dowry to his fiancée then. And he had a fleet of very expensive cars. And it was such a show. And I think after that he drew attention to himself. And since then, he's been on the limelight for all the wrong reasons. So let me just, let's just go through that quickly. And the state wants a suspect in a fake gold syndicate to forfeit 2 luxury cars worth 62 million Kenya shillings, according to fresh court filings exclusively seen by the Standard. The Asset Recovery Agency argues that Jared Otieno could not have bought the vehicles legitimately, not because he has no source of income. Now, the respondent is part of an international syndicate which has been in existence since 2012, fraudulently obtaining from investors monies on the pretense that they have precious metals, including gold. Now, the document filed before the Anti-Corruption Court read in part, and it continues, the respondent has no source of legitimate income and has been filing nil returns with the Kenya Revenue Authority since 2014 to date, which is the period the said motor vehicles were acquired. Now, the vehicles are a Porsche Panamera GTS and Bentley Continental GT. Jeremiah Matipei, an investigator, says Otieno had concealed the ownership of the Bentley by registering it under Uni Holdings Limited. There you go. So Kenya Revenue Authority and the Anti-Corruption Commission are on his case. Mr. Jared Otieno, a very flamboyant young business person there. He lives in a huge mansion somewhere in the suburbs there in Karen. So, and he's been filing nil tax returns since 2014, and during that period is when he bought these luxurious cars, and I think a few years ago built this beautiful home. So, and yet he's been filing nil returns. So the Kenya Revenue Authority is on his case. Anyway, so that is just about it for the Standard newspaper. So now let's look at the Star newspaper. They still have the same headlines, and DP Ruto hatches scheme to hijack Raila's BBI rallies, and Haji to send technical experts to Mombasa ahead of Saturday rally. That is, I will not take a look at that because I think we've talked about it. It is the same story on the Standard newspaper. So And also standoff as University of Nairobi, as Beche says, no to forced leave. The row that is going on at the University of Nairobi, I think there's a lot happening there. And as this continues, Kenyans should expect a lot of things, and perhaps not very good, that will be coming from this, leadership row at the University of Nairobi. And another story, factions play out as senators reject a probe committee. That is in line with Waititu impeachment. I think we've talked about that. I'll not look at it. And the time running out. There, the Star newspaper, it's saying Uhuru's big four projects get 1.3 trillion Kenya shillings. Now, some 1.3 trillion Kenya shillings has been earmarked for the big four in the next 3 years. Press for Time President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration has prioritized projects tied to the head of state's legacy, whose pillars are health, food security, manufacturing, and affordable housing. And that is a story that is on page 8 of the Star newspaper. Let me just look at it very, very quickly, because I want us to look at other news. On page 8, where is that? Oh, okay. So some 1.3 trillion Kenya shillings has been earmarked for the actualization of the Big Four agenda in the next 3 years. Pressed for Time President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration has prioritized expenditure on projects tied to the head of state's legacy, whose pillars are health, food security, manufacturing, and affordable housing. A Treasury report indicates that 100.3 billion Kenya shillings will be spent on agricultural projects, 991 billion on energy, ICT, and infrastructure, 167 billion Kenya shillings on health, and 35.5 billion Kenya shillings on projects by entities that facilitate the Big Four agenda. So the plan contained in the 2020 draft budget policy, critics have been arguing that the Big Four goals may not be achieved by 2022, when the president's second and final term ends. Now, Big Four has been accosted by budget shortfalls amid the multi-trillion shillings debt stress, which has clouded the legacy plan. So there it is. We see 1.3 trillion Kenya shillings, being given to President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda indeed. And this, of course, is what he wants to be his legacy, among other things. All right, so what else? But that is just about it on the front pages of the Star newspaper this morning. So let's look at the last paper, that is the Daily Nation, and Ruto headed for public clash with Raila. The same story after months of sparring over mode of implementing recommended changes. Deputy President and ODM leader could finally come face to face in these BBI rallies. So I think it's going to be a showdown. So we'll just wait for that. I will not get into the details of that. We've talked about it. And alert as deadly coronavirus spreads in China, with hundreds of passengers traveling between Kenya and China daily. Risk of infectious virus entering the country is becoming real. Alrighty now, that story is on page 12 of the Daily Nation. If you want to know what that is about, please go out there and check it out. And another story here on the front page is science closer to beating cancer. Now, scientists have discovered a new type of cell that can recognize and kill most types of cancer, raising hopes for a universal cancer therapy. Researchers at Cardiff University in the United Kingdom say the T-cell can be used to treat a wide range of cancers compared to currently available treatments. This is yet to be tested on living patients. However, in laboratory studies, immune cells equipped with the new receptor were shown to kill lung, skin, blood, colon, breast, bone, prostate, ovarian, kidney, and cervical cancers. That is good news to the world. Cancer is becoming the #1 killer across the world and indeed across Africa. And treating it is very expensive. And if you discovered it in a certain stage, then it's even difficult to be treated. So it has claimed a lot of lives here in Kenya, across Africa, and indeed globally. So that story is on page 3 of the Daily newspaper. So that is it from the Kenya, news. So right now, Good morning to you. A few minutes to top of the hour. That is noon here. And so let's now just turn our focus to what else is making headlines across Africa. And now we start with a ban. And now United States President Mr. Donald Trump, who, by the way, his impeachment process at the Senate, the U.S. Senate, started yesterday, and I was just watching some of it this morning because it spilled over to I think over 1 a.m. there in the U.S. So tough times there for Mr. President, even as he flew to Davos Switzerland, for the World Economic Forum. Anyway, but United States President Donald Trump is planning to add 4 African countries to the travel ban list, according to media reports. The 4 countries are thought to be Nigeria, Tanzania, Sudan, and Eritrea, according to the multi-U.S. media outlets who reported to have spoken to people who had seen the list. Now, President Trump, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal on sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, confirmed that he was considering adding some countries to the travel ban list, but declined to name them. The list is not final and could be changed, the political website added. Now, the ban will not be a blanket one for all the listed countries, but will be on specific types of visas, such as business or visitors visas. And we go to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where at least 15 people died after a boat capsized in a lake in Western Democratic Republic of Congo. The AFP news agency has reported, quoting a local mayor. Now more people are missing from the Monday accident in Lake Mai Ndombe. The mayor of Inongo, Cosmos Mbo Wemba, is quoted as saying the vessel was carrying around 30 people who were returning from a funeral at 35 kilometers away, and in May 2019, at least 45 people died in the lake after a boat that was carrying more than 400 people sank. And we go to Nigeria, when President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the killing of a Christian leader in northern Nigeria. Reverend Lawan Andimi was abducted by gunmen believed to be Islamic militants earlier January. In a statement, the Nigerian president described the killing of Reverend Andimi as deliberately provocative. Now, he also revealed that the kidnappers had shown signs they might free the victim by releasing him to third parties. It's unclear who were these parties. The right groups Amnesty International also condemned the act, calling on authorities to do more to rescue those abducted by Boko Haram. And we go to Burkina Faso, and the government in Burkina Faso says 36 people have been killed in a terrorist attack in the central northern province of Samantega. It said an armed group killed 32 people in a market in the village of Nagraogo on Monday evening, and then attacked 4 other villages near Alamou. Now, it's not clear who carried out the assaults, but Burkina Faso has seen increasingly number of deadly attacks by Islamist militants. Earlier on Tuesday, the country's parliament voted to create a civilian volunteer force to fight militant groups. And that brings me to the next story on Burkina Faso. Now, Parliament in the country has voted in favor of a new civilian volunteer force to defend the nation against terrorist attacks. Now, the president still needs to agree to the law, which could happen by the end of the month. This is in Burkina Faso, right? Now, the draft law says that the volunteers would sign a contract with the state for 1 year. Then they would receive medical insurance if injured, and the force could receive financial support from the state. Are you with me until there? Now, local media are also reporting that the volunteers will receive an initial 14-day training. 14-day training to fight Boko Haram, all right? Now, the measure was first proposed by President Roch Marc Kabore on November 7th after an attack by suspected Islamist militants. Now, some analysts are concerned with this latest development, but the Minister of Communication, Remi Ndajinu, told the BBC in an interview in November when asked about the risk of arming civilians that it was necessary, adding it was comparable to the French resistance when France was occupied by Germans. Are you kidding me? This is a completely different scenario here. And you know what? Let me just go through the rest of the news and then we can talk about this news in detail there. So we look at another news coming from Ghana. And hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets of Kumasi in Ghana on Tuesday to protest against a planned new voters register. The protesters, made up of opposition party supporters, say the Electoral Commission's plan is a ploy to manipulate the result of upcoming elections in favor of the governing New Patriotic Party. They view the cost of the new voters register, which stands at $70 million, a waste of public funds. Now, Electoral Commission officials insist the current register is no longer fit for purposes because it is bloated. Protesters say similar demonstrations will take place in the coming weeks in the capital, Accra. And we go to Tunisia, where Tunisian President Kais Saied has appointed Elis Fafaque as the country's new prime minister designate. This comes after the previously appointed prime minister failed to get enough votes in parliament to back the cabinet he proposed. Mr. Fafaque was not the obvious choice for many in the country, including parliamentarians who favored other potential candidates for the role. And we move to Angola, where the Portuguese bank Eurobic has announced it will end its business relations with Africa's richest woman, Isabel dos Santos. The move follows an investigation by the BBC and partner organizations which uncovered a number of unquestionable deals by the billionaire. Now, Ms. dos Santos says the claims against her are entirely false. Her business deals ranged from Angola's state oil company Sonangol to its biggest mobile phone provider. Now, the bank said the board of directors had decided in a meeting on Monday to terminate the commercial relationship with entities controlled by the universe of the shareholders, Isabel dos Santos, and people closely related to it, adding it will investigate transfer worth tens of millions of dollars made by Ms. dos Santos. And we go to South Sudan, where authorities in South Sudan are accusing opposition rebel groups of enrolling child soldiers, even as the country prepares to implement the historic peace deal next month. Officials say the Sudan's People's Liberation Army in opposition was forcibly recruiting young youth and children into their military ranks in the areas of Rubkona County in northern Liege State. And I think we carried out this story yesterday. And I thought they were just recruiting the youth. Like maybe people who are 18 and over, because perhaps they qualify. I think in our country, if you're 18 plus, you're qualified to join the army. But, these are children that are under the age of 18 that apparently the opposition is recruiting. There in South Sudan, and we shall talk about this. Like I said there, we have started the countdown. It's exactly a month to Sudan's peace deal. Today is the 22nd of January. The peace deal is the deadline is on 22nd of February. So 1 month to go to this. So we will look at that. And we go to the Ivory Coast, where Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara says he is ready to ensure that peaceful posts are held in the West African nation later on this year. The president was speaking at an event organized by Chatham House in London. Ouattara was in town for the Maiden United Kingdom Africa Summit, which was held on Monday, days to the UK's exit from the European Union. And the session was under the theme Elections in Côte d'Ivoire in 2020, Ensuring Stability and Inclusion. As part of his presentation, the president presented the Ivorian model of economic development from 2012 to 2019. And of course, the president was, however, mute on whether or not he will be candidate in the next elections. Ouattara had earlier this year said he would propose modifications of the country's constitution. And we head to Lesotho, where Lesotho's embattled Prime Minister Thomas Tambane is said to be questioned by the country's police over alleged links to the 2017 murder of his estranged wife. Now, the brutal assassination of Lipolelo Tambane sent shockwaves to the tiny mountainous kingdom. Of course, the country is entirely surrounded by South Africa. She was gunned down outside her home in Lesotho's capital, Maseru, on June 2017, 2 days before the inauguration of her husband. Very sinister motive there. And then, he got married after that very, very quickly, not very long ago. And his new wife is also being questioned. So Tabane, who is 80, said last week he planned to resign after senior members of the Albosoto Convention Party accused him of hampering investigations into the killing. He gave no timetable for when he will be stepping down. Like he's 80 already. Can he just, And then we go to Rwanda, where Rwanda now is considering waiving visa fees for a broad category of visitors entering the country. President Paul Kagame is reported to have said in London, the waiver, if eventually passed, will mean that all African citizens of Commonwealth nations and the Francophone will be admitted into Rwanda without having to pay visa fees. According to the state broadcaster, the Rwanda Broadcasting Agency, Kagame disclosed that the proposed exemption as part of his engagements in London, where he attended the maiden, of course, United Kingdom Africa Summit. And we go to Zimbabwe. And now Zimbabwe's main opposition leader, Nelson Chamisa, has vowed to stage a peaceful protest against President Emmerson Mnangagwa, whose government, he says, has precipitated the national economic slide. Now, the annual inflation has risen to over 500%, and most people live in poverty. Now, Mr. Chamisa said he would be willing to meet with his rival to pursue talks on political reforms. He told thousands of party supporters in the capital, Harare, that his movement for democratic change was planning a year of demonstrations and action, adding that the party is emboldened and resolved, and come what may, he will not be intimidated. Of course, we can remember last year, police brutally put down the MDC protest and banned several party meetings. And Tuesday's rally was preceded by a police raid of the party's headquarters at the weekend. Mr. Chamisa has refused to recognize President Mnangagwa's presidency following disputed elections in 2018. And we look at some news from Ambazonia, and a group of visiting French diplomats and parliamentarians have pledged to help Cameroon find peace in the troubled Anglophone regions. The delegation was speaking in Boer last weekend during a courtesy visit to the Office of Southwest Governor. Now received by the Secretary General of the Southwest Governor's Office, the delegation was led by Honorable Rodrigue Cabuedo, and Honorable Didier Quentin said the visit was mainly to ascertain the socio-political situation in the region. You mean to tell me that France does not know what is happening in Ambazonia? They have to go there and ascertain the political, social situation. This information is out there. The videos that are being shared from Ambazonia region are out there, right? So they don't need to send anybody to go there and assess the situation, as if they don't know what is happening in the Anglophone region there in Ambazonia. All right, so the last news of the day is from Biafra. And of course, a group, Ibeko Youth Assembly, has urged President Muhammadu Buhari-led federal government to allow the leader of indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, return home and bury his late parents, Eze Israel Kanu and Ogwoze Sali Kanu. Now, the youth group pointed out that any attacks on the IPOB leader by Nigerian security operatives, if he surfaces for the funeral of his late parents, may spring up avoidable war, which it opened will lead to the final death of Nigeria as a democratic nation. However, the IPOB leader in a statement last week announced February 14th for the final interment of his late parents, but they have not. He is not confirmed whether he will be part. He will be part of the burial rites, the last burial rites there for his parents there, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. This must be the hardest, and I think we talked about some of this yesterday. This must be very difficult for him. Both parents died in November in a very short distance. Like the mother died first and then his father. Imagine I don't even know if he is able to sleep at night. And of course, he had come out and said, the reason what caused the early death of his parents is the raid that happened in his home in 2017, and that left their health has never been the same again. So he's saying that raid that forced Mr. Nnamdi Kanu out of Nigeria is what really he attributes that to the death of his parents. So I'm going to take a very short break, and then when I return, like a very, very short break, we shall look at this news in detail, even as I get myself a glass of water.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Associated to 2022, elections have dominated the political arena in Kenya for years and months now. President Uhuru Kenyatta, in the recent past, has warned people not to engage in politics, but engage in nation building and development. As much as the president has given these warnings, the people have not heeded to the warnings. The objective of improving the lives of Kenyans is the most important thing that you need to have. Kenyans need to have their lives improved. Kenyans need development instead of campaigns. Kenyans don't eat campaigns. Kenyans need health care, good housing, industries, jobs for younger generation, and above all, infrastructure to be able to transport the goods that they manufacture and the crops that they grow for export. It is therefore very important for the people of Kenya to understand that with development lacking, the country will not prosper. President Uhuru Kenyatta has emphasized again that the only thing that can bring Kenya to a world-standing nation, a developing nation, is prosperity through unity of purpose. If you are not united, you cannot deliver to what other people, other nations went through and got united. Look at Germany, for example. It had a lot of anger after the Second World War. But today, Germany gives us the loans that we share, that we Google. You Google a company in Germany and you get what you want. We also global their money, hammer it, eat it every day. Some of us through corruption, some of us through extended kickbacks. But Germany had more anger than any other country in the world after the Second World War. Today, it's a healed country. The only message that Kenyans can take from here is a redemption strategy. The only thing that can heal this country is redemption, forgiveness, reconciliation, restitution, and reparations. And above all, truth-telling and accountability that will bring about the word redemption, which is healing. So for now, those who want to have a better Kenya tomorrow, begin the journey now. 1 inch by inch. Move together with your president. The nation will be a great nation. Thank you.
Welcome back and thank you for joining. In case you're watching, you just joined, this is Good Morning Africa. My name is Miriam Gutu, and of course the television station is Punchline Africa TV, coming to you all the way from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi, but also in conjunction. Right now we are live at South Cameroon Broadcasting Corporation, so if you're able to access that television station there, if you're in Ambazonia or elsewhere across the world, you can do that. So thank you so much. So in the first 1.5 hours, we'll be looking at the first part, what's the latest and the front pages of the leading newspapers here in Kenya, the Daily Nation, the Standard newspaper, and the Star newspaper. And then after that, just before the break, I'd gone through the news-making headlines here in Africa. So now I'd like for us to look at them in detail, just a few of them, not all of them, because today I just realized we had so much, from across the continent. But before I get into it, Joseph Otto Manasseh there, you're saying no hope for sustainable peace in South Sudan. Reason being pulling string on those number of states established without main roads reaching them. Why not build the small numbers of states, then expand the numbers? Poor urban planning politics. So I guess you're supporting what Mr. Riek Machar wants. He's saying, why don't we just leave the states as they are? Or if there's a need to add more, then add just a small, number. We should not have that many, states in South Sudan. But of course, the president, Salva Kiir's side is coming out, has been very adamant about having many states. In fact, he was saying 55. He does not mind. If South Sudan can have 55 states, the better for the country. So I can see where you're coming from, Joseph Otto Manasseh, and you're saying there will not even be roads. There are no roads linking to this so many states that President Salva Kiir wants to have in South Sudan. So thank you so much there. Of course, perhaps that comment came after reading this news piece from South Sudan, where now authorities in South Sudan are accusing opposition rebel groups of enrolling child soldiers, even as the country prepares to implement a historic deal next month. Reports like this worry me so much. Because child soldiers have been used in that Sudan civil war, even before South Sudan separated. And there are a lot of now young adults that are really suffering, that are having, traumatic, lives because of what they went through when they were child soldiers. So some of them are going through therapy. Some of them have been able to heal. Matter of fact, I think last year we had one of them here as our guest, and he gave us his account, and it's saddening. So if these reports that the opposition is recruiting young children. Yesterday, I think I read nearly a similar news, but it was said that it is the youth. I just didn't realize. But of course, there have been these claims that child soldiers are being recruited. So I don't know what Mr. Riek Machar will have to say to this. I hope this is not true. But officials say the South Sudan's Liberation Army in opposition was forcibly recruiting young youth and children into their military ranks in areas of Rubukona. So they're saying yesterday, from the news that we were reading, from the information that I had here yesterday, is that if you refuse, if you're a young person and they come to you and you refuse to be recruited, then they will take your herd, they'll take your cattle, they'll take whatever they can from you. And if your parents refuse, I don't know what else they do. If your parents refuse for you to be taken, I don't know what but it's very serious. It is really serious, and I think the United Nations should come in and investigate these claims. They have been there for a while. I think last year I had a similar, information. So the United Nations needs to come in and investigate these matters. Really, this is a very, very serious matter here. If the players in South Sudan think that they want to bring the children, are they preparing for another civil war? Are they preparing for another, another war? While we're sitting here thinking now it's 1 month towards the signing of a peace deal that will eventually allow the unity government to be formed? What is it that the stakeholders in South Sudan know that we don't know? And of course, reports that have come out from that country, especially last year, has been showing a lot, and the conspiracy and the stakeholders who are involved in how they're actually benefiting from this chaos in South Sudan. But this part of recruiting children, this is worrying, and the United Nations needs to do a very quick, they need to look into this. They need to go to those camps. And of course, the SPLM-IO has come out and said the soldiers are in cantonment areas, and they're not recruiting any new soldiers. But these claims have been there, and of course, it is coming from the other side, and that is the government side. So perhaps the United Nations needs to come in and investigate these claims so that they ascertain really, if at all, there are child soldiers who are being recruited or not. And should there be, then of course there should be some ramification over this. But this is not helping the situation at all. Guys, it is 1 month towards the deadline on the 22nd of February, 1 month from today, and we have started the countdown. This is not the news I want to come here and read, because this might jeopardize the whole process and just rubbish everything that has been done, or any gains that have been made so far in regards to the peace deal and the peace process in South Sudan. So I think the United Nations should come in very fast. I don't know, African Union, where are you? I don't know, IGAD. Have you not seen these reports? Why are you not sending some people there to investigate? Why are you not taking out this matter? Because this is not the first time these claims have been made. And I have not heard any statements from IGAD. I've not heard any statements from the African Union. And the United Nations, I don't know, last year, did that report have that information? I'm not quite sure. But these bodies needs to come in, really, because they have been the stakeholders who have been spearheading this peace deal, starting with IGAD. African Union, just leave that alone. But they need to come in, and ascertain if these claims are true, if at all children are being recruited into joining the army by force. This is tantamount to levels of of criminal activities. This is not right. And recruiting children, this is not right. We thought that was left in the dark years, when South Sudan was really in the middle of the civil war, when they wanted to break away from Sudan. So if they are doing the same thing, then I am disappointed. But as I said, these are claims, but we need a reputable person to go in there, or an outside person to go in there and ascertain whether it's true or not. But this is something that has been making headlines. So these are authorities in South Sudan, the government of South Sudan, who is saying that children are being enrolled into being child soldiers. But also the other week, one of our viewers here was shocked to learn that the government also has its own militia. Yes, both sides, as much as they have the military, their own military and soldiers, they do have their own militias. They are in South Sudan. So that makes even this whole peace process very intricate, with all these factors to be considered. And so, all right, so the first news of the item today was the United States travel ban. And of course, this will affect some countries. And these countries are thought to be Nigeria, which has been at loggerheads with the United States, especially in regards to the visa. Last year, we saw another measure being taken by the United States government in regards to the citizens of Nigeria visiting the country. And so another country that really shocked me is Tanzania. Like, why is Tanzania in this list? And also Sudan. And Sudan, remember, has been really trying to have itself removed from the countries that are sponsoring terrorism. But the U.S. has refused. And the new leadership, they wanted Omar al-Bashir to be gone. He's gone. The new leadership, Mr. Hamdok, Abdallah Hamdok, seems to be very liberal, seems to be open to trading with the world, seems to be opening up Sudan to the rest of the world. So what is it that they want him to do? What is it that they want? Because now this, why is Sudan being on the list of these countries that could face possible sanctions soon, or travel bans, or whatever kind of ban from the United States? While Sudan has been trying to wave the white flag, the Prime Minister has traveled to the US, declaring it's a new day in Sudan, so can we be given another chance? But now we see Sudan is also on this list. So this, I don't understand, but perhaps the United States has its reason. For Eritrea, I couldn't understand that. Remember, Eritrea right now, that country is one of the most closed countries. You put it together with North Korea, those countries that you really cannot access. Even information is a problem. The internet is almost non-existent, and if it's there, it's very, very slow, so it's not something that you'll enjoy to use there. And also, the humanitarian crisis that is happening there, and also the human rights abuse, the record has not been very good for President Isaias Afwerki there in Eritrea. So I would understand why they would have Eritrea in this travel ban or this sanction or whatever it is that President Trump is trying to do. And just a few months ago, remember, Eritrea, which of course is dominantly Orthodox in terms of their religion, they closed down all the facilities that are run by the Catholic Church, the schools and the hospitals. And by the way, they are the ones that were offering the best services in the country. So the president decided we are closing this. And so that brought a lot of problems with the international and especially the Catholic Church. Like, why are you closing clinics that are only helping your people? Why are you closing schools that are only helping your people? So he closed down. So that has put him at loggerheads with the Western countries especially. So I would understand why Eritrea will be included in this list. I just don't get why Tanzania is there. I just don't get why Sudan is on that list. And for Nigeria, they've been having their own problems, so perhaps he's decided to make it now official. So, of course, the travel ban, he's saying, is not a blanket one for all the listed countries, but will be on specific types of visas, and also such as business or visitor travel. So if you think that you want to go there and, for greener pastures and whatever it is, but you've taken a tourist visa, then, my friend, you'll be in trouble. So they want to revise those. And as we speak now, as I said there, of course, the impeachment process for President Donald John Trump has started yesterday at the Senate there in the United States, and it was very interesting. I watched parts of it and went into the wee hours of their morning, and because I woke up in the morning here early and it was still continuing, and that was really late there in the night in the United States. And as we speak, of course, President Trump is attending the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. So now President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the killing of a Christian leader in the northern Nigeria. Reverend Lawan Andimi was abducted by gunmen believed to the Islamist militants early in January. Like it's like I don't catch a break with this Boko Haram news. There has to be some news, and I keep saying here every day. And as much as I want to sit here and look at the statistics, the people who have died, the people who have killed, and now this Christian leader, I think I was reading somewhere, he was beheaded by Boko Haram. There's no winning with this group. And because they've been allowed an atmosphere to thrive in Nigeria. So now President Muhammadu Buhari came out and condemned the killing of this Christian leader. And in a statement, the Nigerian president described the killing of Reverend Andimi as deliberately provocative. Really? He also revealed that the kidnappers had shown signs they might free the victim, but releasing him to third parties. Now, who are the third parties? What was happening? Who was negotiating? What was Boko Haram's demand? Did the Nigerian public know what was really happening since this clergy was kidnapped? This Christian clergy was kidnapped. What is really happening? Who were these third parties? And it is unclear who these third parties were. Now, the rights group Amnesty International also condemned the act, calling on authorities to do more to rescue those abducted by Boko Haram. And they have been in that abducting people in parts of Nigeria is a very big business. They kidnap you, they abduct you, and then they ask for some money, and then you're given back if you're lucky. That is, if you've been abducted by people who are not militants. But if you've been abducted by militants now, then you see how your ending becomes. Now, this Christian leader there was murdered. He was abducted in the beginning of the year, and he was just beheaded. In the northern part of Nigeria, which, Boko Haram activities are much intensified in that part. That is their abode. All right. So we move to Burkina Faso. And of course, the government of Burkina Faso has said that 36 people have died. They have been killed in a terrorist attack in the central northern province of Samantega. And of course, they've been killed by the terrorists, by Boko Haram. It is Boko Haram. But this is the part that really threw me off as I was researching for this news this morning. Now, Parliament in Burkina Faso has voted in favor of a new civilian volunteer force to defend the nation. Are you kidding me? Against terrorist attacks. Are you wanting, or do you want, or are you intending to turn Burkina Faso as Libya? Remember what happened when civilians were armed. Burkina Faso's government, the president, if you cannot contain and offer security to your people, then the right thing to do as commander-in-chief, which appears you have failed, and I'm not blaming this entirely on you because Boko Haram comes from Muhammadu Buhari's place, right? But if you have failed to protect your people, your citizen of your country, and now you're saying you're going to arm them, you're going to arm the citizen in Burkina Faso to help to fight terrorists. And what I find to be very, very ridiculous about this whole story is these civilians will receive a 14-day training. After 14 days, you qualify to go fight Boko Haram. Are you kidding me? Do you want to put all these lives on the line of fire? And arming the citizens is very dangerous. The arms should stay with the disciplined forces. It should be like that. I had here debates in Kenya, after the intense terrorist attacks we were having a couple of years ago in malls and public places that, the security officer, like the guards, security guards, should be armed. No. Perhaps let's increase the number of police stations closer to where we know there's a potential danger. Let's increase accessibility to the police, but arming the security guards who is sitting there with a gun, has not eaten the whole day, very poor pay, they've been refused even to go on leave or whatever, and then he's having a bad day and walking into that mall with an attitude, and this person is armed. No, we cannot do that. So by Parliament, even considering the Parliament in Burkina Faso, even sitting down and debating on this, and even thinking that this is the right thing to do, to arm the citizen there in Burkina Faso so that they're able to protect and fight Boko Haram. Are you what is going on? I thought France had sent its soldiers there, to train the soldiers, the Burkina Faso military. That is not enough. Oh my goodness. So, of course, local media also reporting that the volunteers would receive an initial 14-day training. Horrible idea. And the measure was first proposed by President Roch Marc Kabore. Mr. President of Burkina Faso, you are the commander-in-chief of Burkina Faso. If ensuring security and guaranteeing security to your people is something that you've been defeated to do, The right thing to do is just to step aside, not to arm the civilians. All right? Abraham Wangila Wafula, you're saying you're tuned in. Did you just join? But thank you so much. We're just having a few minutes here. And what we are talking about here, Abraham Wangila, is Parliament in Burkina Faso has voted in a favor of new civilian volunteer force to defend the nation against terrorist attacks. Now, the president still needs to agree to the law, which could happen by the end of the month. So, in a nutshell, Parliament is voting to make a bill that will allow for civilians to be armed so that they're able to fight terrorist attacks. So the government is planning to arm a few civilians there in Burkina Faso, and who is to say? And then the training is supposed to be taking only 14 days, and then, you'll be ready, and you have all the information you require, all the military training you require. Now you're set. You go fight Boko Haram, a battle-hardened group who have nothing to lose, by the way. They have more sophisticated weaponry. Are you setting your citizens to death? It's like they just signed their own death certificates. This is not right. President Kabore of Burkina Faso, this ain't right. It is not right. This is not right. And of course, some analysts are concerned with the latest development. But the Minister of Communication, Remy Danjunu, told the BBC in an interview in November when asked about the risk of arming civilians that it was necessary, adding it was comparable to the French resistance when France was occupied by Germans. Totally different situations, please, sir. No, and no. I don't know. Is it okay to arm the civilians, especially in these areas in Africa that we have Boko Haram in Nigeria, Burkina Faso there, and before that story, 36 people had been killed in Burkina Faso also from terrorist attacks. And so Burkina Faso has been in the receiving end when it comes to these terror attacks. But the solution is not in arming the civilians. I think you'll be causing more chaos. And look at what, Libya has turned into. NATO brought in weapons after weapons and guns after guns. Right now in Libya, there are more guns than you can even care to count. Nobody, created a structure in which these weapons could be traced. And now, it's easier. It's easier. There are more guns there in Libya than nobody's business, which has made the place very unsafe. You cannot put guns into civilian hands like that and help them fight, militant groups. No, I don't think that is a very wise move there. Burkina Faso Parliament, that is not the right move. So anyway, let's move very swiftly to Ivory Coast, where Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara says he's ready to ensure that peaceful polls are held in the West African nation later on this year. Of course, President Alassane Ouattara was speaking in Chatham House yesterday while giving a speech whose theme was Elections in Côte d'Ivoire 2020, ensuring stability and inclusion. So now the president was, however, mute on whether or not he will be a candidate in the next elections. Ouattara had earlier this year said he would propose modifications to the country's constitution. He has been in office since 2010. He secured a second term in office 2015 with elections meant to be held for his replacement. One of his main rivals, former ally and National Assembly President Guillermo Soro, is currently in forced exile. Alassane Ouattara seems to have learned nothing from what caused Gbagbo to go to the ICC. Remember when Gbagbo refused to leave power after he lost? And then, of course, he was removed by force. French army helped and other army came in and helped, and he was removed. And later on, he was taken to the ICC, and of course, he was acquitted, but still on conditions, because he's still held in Belgium. He was acquitted. They could really not put a finger on anything that could make him serve a jail term. But he's still in Belgium. He was told he cannot move, so he's still in Belgium until the case is completely thrown off from the court, the ICC. So Alassane Ouattara has served, he's in the last year of his second term, as constitution in Ivory Coast there allows. But earlier this year, he made a pronouncement that he wants to make some changes in the constitution. I hope it's not the third term dilemma that faces a lot of African leaders who, after they've served their term, they decide, no, I think my people still need me, and I think I was the best president that they've ever heard. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have a constitutional coup and, place myself there as king or as the president. We don't have monarchies in Africa except for Lesotho and and other countries, but there in Eswatini, sorry, all right, not Lesotho. The prime minister is also facing another. He said that he will be, changing the constitution.
Fellow Africans, I took this petition to the court in order to stop any future usage of falsehood and false documents, procured witnesses of the Waki Commission. I took this petition to the court 4 years ago in order to make sure that the Chief Prosecutor of International Criminal Court does not use this evidence anytime in the future, whether tomorrow or 10 years to come, to refer to this evidence because the evidence was fake. It is with this dismay and with this courage that I took to go to court in Kenya to seek a judicial review and to redeem the credibility of both those accused and the victims of this catastrophe that occurred in Kenya, that I decided to seek to expunge this report from the reports and the statute books of Kenya. It is unfortunate that the three judges in Kenya, whom I will name now, Judge Kanyi Kimondo, Judge Aburil, and Judge Onyengo, all of them sat down and gave very silly, flimsy, prudish, sardonic ruling against our petition. I want to tell the Kenyans that I have done my best. I want to be on record that should this thing reappear again, don't call me. Should it reappear again, don't say I never told you. Should the Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court use this fake evidence again against Kenyans, don't say I did not tell you. My role was to go and remove these obnoxious toxins from the books of the Republic of Kenya. I therefore want to tell the world that my torrid road, a long road that I've taken in search for this envelope, has ended in Kenya so far. But I want to announce that Kenya is not the only state party in international law. Kenya is not the only state party. I will in the future, very soon, detail to you which other state party I'm going to seek this envelope to be expunged and to be made public to the people of the world. I want to thank you all. I want to tell you that a detailed document which is entitled My Long Road, Torrid Road to Work envelope will be found on www.panafricanforumltd.com. You can read it, you can dissect, you can see the days, the long road, what I took, what I did, referenced, well documented, and may God help you that at one time somebody in Kenya will stand up to say thank you very much.
Welcome back, and we apologize for that mix-up, but thank you for still being attuned. We have just a few minutes, over 10 minutes here to go before the end of the show. So before that mix-up, we were looking at Burkina Faso and what the president there, Alassane Ouattara, now wants to do. And, very interesting there. And Abraham Wangila, you're saying, when will African countries embrace democracy? Some presidents in Africa are just a disgrace. The Burkina Faso president is very irresponsible. He totally has no idea about leadership. Was he elected to office democratically, or he came to power through a coup d'etat? He was elected, apparently, and, the president, his predecessor, Mr. Laurent Gbagbo, did not want to to surrender or to concede, rather. And so it forced, the country was plunged into a civil war there, that forced other countries to intervene in this. And of course, Alassane Ouattara ran to another country, and he was sworn in another country. And then after that, Mr. Laurent Gbagbo was forced out of the presidential, home there, and he later on found himself in ICC. So he was trying to disrespect the constitution and the electoral process. And if you go deeper and really get into the history of elections and, the politics in Ivory Coast, then you'll find hallmarks of French interference in the politics of that country, because they usually are comfortable with somebody who will be serving their interest since the days of, Thomas Sankara. Remember when he came into power, and he wanted to distance, himself with the outside influence that will be, France and Belgium and all that. And so when Mr. Thomas Sankara, made a declaration that the Burkinabe, we are going to be independent, we are going to work hard and feed our people, we are not going to rely on aid from outside, it's like he declared a war with France in particular. So after that, we saw a very close friend of him who they had been together in the army. He was a very young army person. And of course, this friend of him, they met in the army, and then later he helped him. They were the ones together, they worked in organizing the coup that removed the president that was there before. I can't remember his name. And so after that, later on, the French used his very close ally, his friend. I'm trying to remember his name. Why am I forgetting? Because he later on stayed in power for nearly 27 years, and he was removed by a coup now. And so they used Thomas Sankara's friend to kill him. All right. So a lot has been happening there in Burkina Faso. No, I'm talking about Burkina Faso, not Ivory Coast. Sorry, I'm mixing these things up. Sorry, I'm mixing these two political history up. But that is in Burkina Faso, and also in Ivory Coast. The reason why, even French came in to help remove Laurent Gbagbo is because Laurent Gbagbo was no longer playing ball, with the French, and so he was no longer serving his interests very well. So they said, you know what, okay, but we'll bring this. But it appears President Alassane Ouattara was, elected democratically, but now he wants to do the same thing his predecessor did, that nearly got the country into a lot of trouble, because a good number of deaths was reported during that time. So I don't know, that's what I was asking. Do we ever learn from our history? Has Alassane Ouattara learned anything from what happened there in the Ivory Coast? And and that Thomas Sankara story that is in Burkina Faso. And I don't know why I'm forgetting his friend who later on became the president, who later on was removed by a coup, and he's the one who betrayed Mr. Thomas Sankara. But anyways, let's go now to Zimbabwe, where main opposition leader Nelson Chamisa yesterday held a rally. Remember, the government of Emmerson Mnangagwa had come out and said, no, this rally will not happen, but they allowed the rally to happen. Remember, it is the protesting last year that really got and Zimbabwe even more sanctions, because the US, EU, and they came out and say, no, you met these protesters with an excess force that really caused President Mnangagwa a lot of problems out there, even as he tries to clear the image of him and his country. Remember, Emmerson Mnangagwa, the reason why perhaps the West is not very open to him. And yesterday here we had the news of him not being invited to the African UK summit that was happening in London, is because, the British have not really forgiven what really happened under President, the now late President Robert Mugabe. And why is that? Emmerson Mnangagwa served many years in the government of Robert Mugabe. So they just see him as a continuation of Mugabe, and they don't think that he is the change that Zimbabweans really needed. So we've seen them support MDC and their leader Nelson Chamisa there. And so Chamisa yesterday was allowed to hold this rally, and he came out and he made several declarations, and he said, you know what, this year is going to be the year of protest, and we shall protest. So let the government of Emmerson Mnangagwa be told that nothing will stop us. We are not going to be intimidated. We'll be protesting in the streets of Harare and elsewhere across Zimbabwe. But also something very important. I'll just read a quote, from the speech he made there yesterday, Mr. Nelson Chamisa. He said, so we have come here to bury poverty, to bury dictatorship, to bury chaos, to bury violence, to bury high unemployment, to bury all the problems you're facing, to bury absence of electricity and water in your homes. This is our last space to see these things. These things you're seeing, you will not see anymore. Are you serious? Like, what plans does Chamisa has? Is even serious? What change? What is he proposing will really end the sufferings that Zimbabweans have been going through? So anyway, at the same rally, Chamisa said he was worried by the worsening humanitarian crisis in Zimbabwe. And I'll quote him again: international partners, please help us. Hear our voice where we are crying for you to help us. Forget about our problems in the country. Help us on the humanitarian front. I think on this one he's right, okay? Because these sanctions that were called on by the opposition at that time for Zimbabwe, has really affected the economic status of that country and the financial status of that country. So now, I don't know if this appeal here he's making for the international community, perhaps they'll hear him, because President Mnangagwa has been trying to reach out, have been trying to have some of these sanctions removed. Instead, more just being given, like the last one that was given to one of his ministers there, even as the country protested. They had like a one-day protest against sanctions that, has crippled Zimbabwe. So I don't know if Chamisa, because now he is saying he's burying all this dictatorship, chaos, violence, unemployment, burying all these problems. Does he has a strategy? Who will help bury these things? Who will fund the burying of these things? Because these things requires money. What is it not telling us? What is happening? And he's seeing that all these problems Zimbabweans are seeing, they will not see anymore. It's very telling. Okay, so yesterday, anyway, he was allowed to give the protest, and by him declaring that this 2020 will be a protesting year for the MDC, I think he just declared war with President Mnangagwa's government. And if President Mnangagwa, takes the bait and even attempts to attack this protest through the police and all that, then that might not be very good for him and for the country. So let's just see how that will play out. So we move to Ambazonia, where a group of visiting French diplomats and parliamentarians have pledged to help Cameroon find peace in the troubled Anglophone regions. Now, the delegation was speaking in Buea last weekend during a courtesy visit to the southwest governor. So now, this is what I found to be very interesting. They went to ascertain the socio-political situation in the region. Like, are they really that out of touch that they do not understand what is happening in the Ambazonia region, in the Anglophone region there in Cameroon? They really don't know. So they have to go and ascertain the socio-political situation. Do they not hear what Ambazonians have been saying? Have they not seen the photos, the videos that have been circulating in the social media, and I'm sure have found their way into their hands, in their offices? Are they really that out of touch with what is happening in the Anglophone region there that they have to send a delegation to ascertain? Come on, France, now. Okay. Sawa, I think we are almost done here. So let me just, of course, the news from Biafra, as I said there earlier, Nnamdi Kanu is really, I don't know, is he trying to come to Nigeria without the knowledge of the authority? Because his parents have not been buried since they died in November, and the date of their burial was announced to be, which will be taking place on the 14th of February. Will Nnamdi Kanu be able to come and bury his parents? That is yet to be seen. But yesterday, I think there was some information from the police there in Nigeria, and they said should he set foot in that country, they will arrest him on arrival. So he should not dare come back to Nigeria. So that is the latest. Abraham Wangila, you're saying, what signal does UK want to send out there when they invite MDC to a UK-Africa summit and leave out a democratically elected government? Is it, in a way, engineering a political instability in Zimbabwe? Of course. How else? Of course. They're trying to tell you this is the person we support. And as I said there earlier, the reason why they cannot support Emmerson Mnangagwa, they still feel he's a continuation of Robert Mugabe. And they detested Mugabe to his grave. And prior to that, 20-some years ago, Mugabe used to be a darling of the West. They educated him. A lot of his knowledge when he was studying in the UK. And so when he announced the land reforms, that's what got him into trouble. And if you read through that story and you understand the nitty-gritties of that agreement, Mugabe had actually made an agreement with the British that they shall reclaim parts of these lands, and then the British were the ones who were supposed to be paying these farmers, or just see how this huge chunks of lands perhaps could be reduced, and the white settlers are given, or the Boers are given a part of it, and then the rest was to be distributed to the black Zimbabweans. And then after that, the British were supposed, the Lancaster Agreement, the British were supposed to fund this agreement, but they backed out of the deal. And from then on, Mugabe they started vilifying Mugabe. And so Mnangagwa, of course, worked for many years in the government of Mugabe, and so they don't want him. I think for that reason, and because he's on ZANU PF, they say no, this is the same person. This is Mugabe. This is Mugabe. This is Mugabe. So they don't want him because of that. And so MDC and led by Nelson Chamisa seems to be the right choice for them. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he will advance their interest in Zimbabwe. I don't know. Maybe they have an agreement that he will handle the land reforms much differently, because when you listen to Chamisa's speech, he really never mentions anything to do with the land and whatnot and all of that. And so it's very interesting. And also as well, Namibia is also embarking on land reforms, and I was shocked to learn the statistics there. 6% of the population, that is the Germans and the white South Africans who moved to Namibia, 6% of the population owns 80% of all the land in Namibia. You do the math and tell me where justice is in that. And so Namibia has been trying to be diplomatic in how to really handle this, because it's getting out of hand. And the black population is really the 80% of the rest. Look, not 80, the 84% of the population. No, 94% of the population, sorry. 94% of the population shares the other 20% of the land. Like, how ridiculous is that? So Namibia has been trying to make a bit of reforms, but with diplomacy. So President Gebgo came out and said, you know what, perhaps I'll become more masculine in how I'll be handling this matter. And then you saw that video that a German diplomat went to his office and is trying to question why Namibia is having these ties with China. And the president said, no, you cannot come here and lecture a whole head of state. A president of my country, me as a president of Namibia, and who my country chooses to associate with. That relationship with China has nothing to do with you Germans or any other country. We choose to associate with whoever we choose to associate with. So that is something that I'll see even developing there in a lot of those South African countries. There, of course, South Africa has its own share of that, and some reforms were introduced. I think it's not really final, and it has not been debated in Parliament yet, but very radical reforms are being introduced there. So let's just see how that will play out. But I think that is all about it. And for Chamisa to say this will be the year where a lot of protest is expected to happen in Zimbabwe, he knows what he's doing, and he's baiting Mnangagwa. So what I would say to the president of Zimbabwe is just leave this protest to take place. Leave the rallies to take place, because they're waiting for you to send the army and the police there, and then more sanctions will be meted to you and Zimbabwe, and that is not what the country needs right now. So thank you so much for your time. This has been Good Morning Africa Show. My name is Miriam Ogutu, has been and still is Miriam Ogutu, hasn't changed. Thank you so much for your participation today and for engaging with me. I'll see you later.